You see this shit? It's called Sonic Adventure. Came out for the Dreamcast 1998 and then in 2003 as a port on the GameCube with a new name DX Director's Cut. Then there was also a 2004 version and then a Steam port and a bunch of other versions, but the one I played was the Director's Cut when I was 9 and that was pretty fun, and then time passed. Hello, welcome, it's 2020 now and the game is considered subpar. I guess the game got hit by time fairly hard. The animations are dated, the graphics are ugly, the characters look weird and you can click pretty much anywhere. Needless to say, it's not a game many consider good for today's standards. Not because it is bad, but because there's a lot of glitches and annoyances. So, people are starting to ask for one simple thing. A remake, and I don't blame them because I do too. In fact, given the last year's rumors, that may not be so latest after, you know. But even though they are fairly flimsy, I decided to tell you how to go about making this remake. With my ideas, that half of the time are pretty crazy and unrealistic. So I'm the kind of guy that you give me creative freedom and I just go balls to the wall with it. I like to think in big scales, and so I said, might as well give it a shot and try to make my own guns for my very own version of Sonic Adventure as a remake. Now when I say remake, I mean a remake, not a remaster. A remake would add new content, fully new graphics, and more than just general quality of life improvements. Anyways, so while I want to bring new stuff to the table, I will also kind of be stupid if I just was like, hey, change everything and add a shit ton of things on top. I will still think realistically on what could be done, but that said, some of my ideas will be out there. So if you want, you can also go ahead and put your own ideas in the comments, you know, just slap them in there, let me read them, I will probably answer. But keep in mind that these are my thoughts on making a remake for Sonic Adventure. And they happen in the little hole inside my head that I literally have because I have no frontal lobe. Oh, that's why I'm stupid. So this video already looks like it's gonna be long enough, so let's get down to it. So even though you don't realistically start with the title, let's start with the title! Wait, but why? I mean, the name literally doesn't matter. Really, you could call it Sonic Adventure 3xX and it'd be fine. But if I want to think of it like I'm Sega, I probably would revolve it around some new mechanic. DX is named Director's Cut after having a little extra content. And the battle, Sonic Adventure 2, ported to the GameCube, was named like that after its new multiplayer system. So, I would probably go with a name like Sonic Adventure 2020X, but if you think about what I'm adding personally, I'd call it Sonic Adventure Modern Cut. Again, any name would do. Let's continue by segmenting this stuff, and the first thing I'm gonna do is one of the most important. Gameplay! So, Sonic Adventure is a little bit of a unique game. Just turn it on, see this intro, skip this intro because you spam the A button, get blasted with rock music, figure out what the fuck a memory card is, go buy one, put the game again, don't skip the intro this time. Wow, it's cool, oh my god, what the fuck, is that a water monster? Then press some buttons and you'll see that you can play as Sonic, or 5 question marks. In other words, this game just gives you 6 different gameplay styles that are all kinda different from each other. Now, some of them are naturally better than the others. Like fucking Big the Cat, I like cats, I like frogs, yet I still don't like you, how do you mess up that bad? But if you wanna remake this game, how it should be fucking done, you need to polish every single one of them. But before that, we need to talk about fixing the camera and the collisions. Effectively, I'm talking about redoing all of the controls. You know the good thing we have on our controllers called the right stick? Yeah, we're gonna use that to let the player look around with the camera. You see, Sonic Adventure was always a game where they push you to explore. You have these 3D environments and you can move around them, so why not let you try to find the strange places? In reality, Sonic Adventure 2 actually pushes you to explore since they have hidden some emblems around the hub world, so, you know, you fix the cam. Also, the collisions. I just assume that, you know, they are gonna remake all of the 3D environments to look good, so hey, this is a given. Now, what's next? Remember that we have a few more awesome triggers in our modern controllers, which could be used to map the controller so that most actions are done with the same buttons. In both Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, there were issues with moves being mapped to the same buttons. Now, I get it when Sonic does the homing attack with the same button for jumping, because that's only logical. But don't map the grab and throw keys together. I mean, poor Chow, how many times did I punch my Chow by mistake because of this? We have more buttons now, so let's use those. Now, after we acknowledge that our controller mapping would be a little less confusing, let's go do character gameplay. And let's not forget to put shields in the game too, because those things are dope and they didn't get used anymore. But I don't want any of those whips bullshits, you know, let's keep it real to the original. What I'm trying to say is, it's a remake, not a rechange, you know, we're not gonna change shields for Wisp. Leave them being shields and having the original skills, that's pretty cool. Okay, gameplays for peoples and characters. And what better way to start talking about characters than talking about the main protagonist, which is Sonic! Also, he's the character with the most levels in game, so I guess it's fitting. And to be honest, I thought I changed that fact in a remake. I'll talk about stages more later. We're here to talk about the gameplay, and that's how I'll do it for all the characters. Any ideas for changing the stages or modifying them will come up as I reach that certain section. Alright. Sonic is definitely the most fun in this game. Supposing collisions get fixed and automated sections like loops and stuff like that are better automated, Sonic's spin dash would have to become more similarly like how it does in Sonic Adventure 2. So removing the long charge time, I would also try to rework some of the physics, specifically slope physics, as sometimes Sonic would spin dash into a slope and he'd just be sent 75 meters into the air, kind of as if he was doing something that was not intentional. I suppose I tried to fix that, even though some speedrunning techniques from the original game would be different. I think it's a good payoff to do for, having a better game overall. Next, I'd probably add some stabilization to his movement so he can walk in a damn straight line. Also, letting him keep his momentum after interacting with springs instead of bringing him into a full stop would be pretty good. So yeah, pretty much we're breeding his controls, making them tighter, making them nicer. Now, when people talk about a remake for Sonic Adventure, one of the things that comes up is, do we put the boost in? I know it's a thing from Sonic, but I really think that bringing it into the remake for Sonic Adventure would differ too much from the original. What I would bring back instead is the grinding mechanic from Sonic Adventure 2, as they let the player move in more ways around the level. It would also give levels like Red Mountain a little bit more room to be unique using, rails instead of zip lines or stuff like that. So it just really comes down to polishing up Sonic in a way that, is kind of familiar to both players but tight enough for new players, so we can have a little bit of a better experience while playing as him. Tails! So, Tails is very similar to Sonic, but he can fly. Oh, and this was back when he was actually useful, so let's keep that in. So, Tails can attack with his tails and do all the things he could do in the original, as well as maybe extending his flying abilities to accommodate any level design changes that might occur. In Tails mode, the goal is to, reach the goal before Sonic, so the biggest deal with Tails would be to fix Sonic. So we're changing Sonic more here than we're changing him in his story. Whatever, Sonic is extremely rubber banded in the original game. This means he literally waits for Tails if the player moves too slow. I would remove this and make it harder. It's supposed to be a game mode where you use your smarts to beat the fastest thing alive, so him waiting kinda makes it pointless. By the way, quick note that this is very good gameplay design, that whole thing of beating the fastest thing alive. I would also probably give Sonic set paths to follow instead of an artificial intelligence, where he could choose longer paths the further Tails is from him. Now, if Tails can interact with him, that changes things a little, and he will need an artificial intelligence, especially to set him back on track or in timing to avoid getting hit by any elements that are on a cycle. For example, these tubes in Casinopolis have these bolts that slam down, and we wouldn't want him getting hit if he doesn't get hit normally, right? And while I could change Tails more, I think I'll leave it like that, as similar as I can to the original game. That said, I think I found a great spot between developing a complexity and a simple AI. I'd say it's plausible. Knuckles. Like Sonic, he doesn't chuckle, and he's an echidna. Yeah. So, Knuckles has a tedious game style. You're supposed to get the pieces of the Master Emerald, and while the original had a stage structure, I would probably make it so that his new game style would be more open world, and add more pieces of the Emerald in the hubworlds, as well as changing the game progression overall. I'd make it more of a Metroidvania style of game, where you obtain upgrades as you go, and without these you can't continue, even adding some extra ones. It's already very close to Knuckles' game progression, but a tad bit more of freedom and polish could go a long way. To further sell the idea of an open world style structure, I would probably make it keep a consistent timer, as in a timer that keeps going between zones and maybe only stopping if it's a boss battle. The radar, I'd probably either keep it the same or make a new radar where it's like a compass that points you north, south, east or west. Would be very simple, but it would try not to break the exploration element, which is the point of having a limit, And I'll also make it a point to visit Angel Island every so often. In fact, I changed it so that Angel Island is defaulted to the place where Knuckles is found whenever you play his story, as well as probably making so that you obtain a couple of upgrades over there instead of just scattered around the world. Finally, and this is a small suggestion to the hubworlds, which should technically be in the next section, but I don't really care. I think it fits better here if I said, let's make it so that Angel Island is only accessible by only a few characters at the beginning of the story, aka Knuckles or Tails, because they are the only ones who can fly. Maybe even Gamma if they change some of that, but if it's not possible, it's not possible. I'm saying we remove the bridge used to get to Angel Island in most stories until the final story when Sonic comes back. I wouldn't make Angel Island rise back up after Knuckles gets all the emeralds, cause then it wouldn't be bullshit that there's a bridge that came back for whatever reason. Amy, step 1, fix her acceleration. She takes like 35 minutes building up speed. I could make a video of a playthrough of a story mode, but only when she's building up speed, and it'd be very long. You know what? Fuck it. I'm basing all my changes on a mod that actually fixes Amy for what I can see in the original game, and that's the Color Amy mod made by this person who I forgot their name, as well as using a little bit of a physics change, because you know, that would be unrelated, but do that. So the mod gives you a double jump and a hover, as well as helping you with her acceleration, so that's it. Next you'll have to do would be to change a couple of bits of the level design to be accommodated, but otherwise there's not that many changes that had to be done to her gameplay up to that. I would add more bosses and stages to her story, but I'll talk about that later. Gamma! What do you mean I skipped the character? I did not. Gamma has quite a short story, where I think the only thing that he'd need to have is bigger play areas and a button to find his target. You press the button and it just draws a line on the floor telling you where to go because that's where your telling is. And given this new mechanic, maybe his jump physics should be polished? Then again, movement polish is kind of a given. For what's left, I'm making the visual feedback for getting extra time more satisfying, as well as more visual since it's just a circle on the screen that is kinda hard to look at and very ugly. I'd also try improving the level and the bosses, as well as using letters in the names instead of the symbols. You know, see how it says Epsilon with this shape? I would just write Epsilon, that's it. Okay, let's actually tackle Big instead of just joking about it. So it's no surprise that everybody hates Big. His story is boring, his character is lame, and the only two interesting parts about his campaign is when he lifts up this car and when he fishes Froggy out of Chaos 6. So, let's change all of it without changing all of it! Here's the deal, I have the hypothesis that Big Story was probably made with the idea of showcasing the concept of 3D fishing, since that 3D technology back then was a rare thing, and you know, the Dreamcast was a fairly big console, so it was pretty much just Sega going to flex down on Nintendo's fishing when they made Zelda, which is fairly more fun, that one. But now it's the future and we don't need that anymore. I think it'd be fine to see his gameplay change a little bit. I would still try to make it retain a little bit of the things that made it the original, but I changed some of it. And here's what I mean. So let's say Big just grabs his fishing rod and throws it underwater. Then I think I'd give the player free movement underwater to look at the fish and decide which fish to catch. Once they find a fish to catch, I'd probably only make it be a little bit like Persona 4 or Animal Crossing. So the options would be, you stand on top of the fish goes like, oh interesting, blop blop blop, and then bites. Or you have a little bar that tells you where you have to click so that you get the fish that you want to get. I think it would be far more simple and it would be more of a relaxing and satisfying experience over a terrifying experience of forgetting to press the down button 75 times, oh god. I think it shouldn't be too hard to turn this into a very relaxing experience. Maybe let's give the player extra bonus the more fish weight they have, specifically revolving around the range of Big when he defeats enemies. Maybe I'd increase the number of and make him getting rid of enemies as simple as slicing to butter with a perfect knife. Maybe we could also add a store system where he can sell fish for more weapons, bait, items for use in the Chow Garden, or even maybe furniture to put in his house a la Mario Odyssey. Something simple yet satisfying, where the extra emblem goals from the extra modes in the original game can be completed even in the main story mode. Finally, I add a feature kinda like what I just discussed with Gamma, where you have a button that lets you track the body of water Froggy is in. That way people who don't care can easily find Froggy and finish this stage. Then I find that people maybe won't be so afraid to play Big if they don't like him. His story would be short, easy, comical, relaxing, and all the nices it wasn't in the original, cause oh god, let's not talk about that one, it was bad. Great, now we have those 6 stories answered, but guess what? It's a speculation video about Sonic Adventure, so of course you're thinking, what about new characters? And that's when I got my mind rolling to conceptualize 5 potential new characters. But first, we must answer a few questions. Should the game have new characters? How do we make sure to fit in? And what is the possibility of any new characters getting in? Well, answer 1 is rather simple. I mean, you can beat the entirety of Sonic Adventure 100% in about 17 hours, and that is counting doing Chow Garden stuff, which is most of the things that you have to do for completion. So, let's suppose you remove all Chow Garden, you still have about 6 hours of game, and that's not really a lot. I mean, you can barely get 10 if you play slowly. that doesn't matter because either way Sonic Adventure originally bragged about having many characters. Having 6 playable characters that all play differently back then was quite an achievement, and it literally became one of the selling points of the game. So I think adding new stories would be super dope, as well as giving remake players some little bit of happiness, and, you know, making something different from the original so that we have a reason to get it besides, oh wow, look, the graphics look nicer, I guess. Answer 2 is a little bit more tricky, or so I thought until I realized something. Why does Gamma fit in the game as a shooter character? It makes no sense aside of, oh, he's an Eggman robot. His story is barely attached to any of the other characters, his gameplay style is about shooting things while all the others are flying around and running. It shouldn't make sense, but it does! And that's because by the time you reach his story, the game looks familiar. Most consistently, the stages. So I'm pretty much saying let's use the same stages. And the reason for that comes down to game design. You see, the game is designed so that you unlock characters as you go. Gamma is one of the last ones you unlock, so you really can unlock him without playing through Windy Valley, Emerald Coast, Casinopolis, Twinkle Park, as well as exploring Station Square, Mystic Ruins, and the Carrier. And that is supposing you decide to unlock him with Amy. Either way, by the time you get to him, you really have seen a few stages and visuals that will make him familiar to you. So, it's not really that hard to make any actually new characters fit, just use some basic 3D controls and give them some common stages before you unlock him. That's all. As for any time concerns, I've explained why it's possible to add some of them without much problem later. But now, we have to get into who those potential characters are! So I decided to have Eggman, Cream, Tikal, Metal Sonic, and Chaos, but I kinda scrubbed Chaos because, well, he's the mysterious antagonist and playing as him would be weird, especially if he's gonna change every stage to accommodate the new abilities he learns throughout the story. So that leaves a few characters for me to conceptualize, and in a little I'll explain what stages and role they'll have in the story, and that way I finally am able to escape from having this video be long and unorganized.
Let's start with Cream. Now this one's a given, she's even teased within the game and, well, at least I wanted to play as her. I suppose Sonic Advance 1 happens before Sonic Battle, so she doesn't attack here, but her child does instead. I would imagine you unlock her after the egg carrier crash lands at sea, where either Tails and Amy get back to Station Square or all the way till before Sonic enters Final Egg. I'd explain why you unlock her that later. Well. So from my imagination, Cream would be a character where her stages would be taught out to move downwards, and enemy killing would be easy. The catch is that Cream would be able to take Chow from the Chow Garden with her, therefore you get better scores the better Chow you have in the garden, and also cap it at 4 Chow plus cheese. Then, Cream would be all about beating stages using her speed, similar to Sonic with the ability to hover downwards at a controllable speed. Besides that, I'd probably give her an ability to preserve her momentum when jumping left to right because it would flow better. As for movement, I'd probably make her acceleration be similar to Tails but allow her to reach greater top speeds. Now is when the more observant of you probably notice that this is just me translating her gameplay style from Sonic Advance 1 into a 3D environment, and I guess that's pretty fitting for the game. Either way, she's an easy to play character that's also overpowered, so just fun, I guess. I don't know.
Eggman! You'd probably unlock him after finishing any story except for Pix, given that he doesn't ever cross to Eggman for real. Eggman would probably play strangely because he'd be the first one to appear chronologically in the story, similar to how he was in Sonic Adventure 2. I'd probably make him play like Shadow in Shadow the Hedgehog, but, you know, removing the mission sting and the guns aren't real because real guns are stupid for Sonic. Perhaps a main mechanic could be having Eggman only be able to use 2 weapons at the same time and have to choose which weapons to use when he gets near these top secret Eggman stations scattered around the levels. So for example, he could have a hack and fix gun which allows him to get into certain machinery or parts of the level and fix the part of the level to form whatever you see in the levels as the other characters. So an example from the top of my head would be to see him put the dolls in Final Egg for Gamma, and also make it a point to show how tall and imposing he is, maybe by making the fob bigger, or having a bigger space around him in the camera. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do, so I'll just leave it at that. Next character, yeah. On second thought, another thing you could do with the Eggman's gameplay is just turn it into Metal Gear Solid or something like that. I mean, it still uses the guns and stuff, but it's also a little bit stealth, and I mean, I imagine people freak out when he passes by, so maybe that could be another way to make Eggman a playable character. Tikal, I think she probably would be playable before unlocking the final story, where she'd be a short story similar to Amy's, The main point being to arrange the events in the flashbacks seen throughout the game. Her gameplay would be like Knuckles except no punching, a limit to gliding, and have more linearity. Of course, since she can't fight as in when she gets buttered by her dad here, in that very sad scene, maybe some sort of stealth element? You can do a lot of things with this character, and you can even show how the Mystic Ruins came to be in the state they are in game right now, you know, having a little scene with Perfect Childs ruining it. I don't know, food for thought.
Man, I'm really hungry right now.
Finally, Metal Sonic. He would be post-game content like he is in the X, but upon finishing Super Sonic story instead of when you complete the game. Either way, he would be hard mode Sonic, simple as that. So now's when people get their pitchforks and go like, hey, what about the developers? Those are 4 more stories, do you know how much time that would take to that? You bitch! But let me explain. We're talking about how Sonic Adventure works. Welcome to this graph! It shows us what levels each character plays from in the X, as well as which stages are really unique to the character and reused from someone else's or share extremely similar elements. Sonic Adventure presents with 11 action stages, and there's 32 times any character can enter the respective stage. However, only 17 of those times do you get any new segments. Most notably, Amy gets small segments for her in every single stage, where she shares maybe 60% of a stage with another character, yet I still think I will count it as unique. That means that about 47% of the stages in-game don't really have any elements besides stuff like Knuckles' Emerald Pieces or Gamma's Shooty Walls. Either way, with only 11 stages, most variations of them just use the same textures and mechanics, with only the enemy placement or certain parts of the geometry change it a little. So that said, Sonic Adventure 2 has 32 stages, 27 of which are almost fully unique. And keep in mind, Adventure 2 came out barely a few years after Sonic Adventure 1, so as soon as Sonic Team will get up their asses and do over the 8 stages that did in Sonic Forces, I think it's a good idea if they were to add new content and do better versions of what they did back then. So let me just come in here and slap my ideas for new stages for every character. First off, we did a new hub world. Sonic Adventure features 3 but actually 4 hub worlds: Station Square, Mystic Ruins Woods, and the Egg Carrier. I would like to propose another one, Egg City. It's always in the back of the Mystic Ruin Woods and it could contain 3 stages: Egg Tower, Neon Underground, and Final Egg. Of course, all of those names are my ideas and many others could also be. A 4th Chao Garden would also be in order. After this, the next new stage to add would be a stage for past Mystic Ruins, Mystic Forest, a stage for Station Square Streets, Square City, and a stage to play in the final story involving all of the characters. Let me explain my ideas for each level. I'll do very bare bones explanations of the levels because I could go all out, but looking at the duration and size of the script, I don't think it'd be fair to anyone watching. By the way, half of the script's left. I will try doing some concept art, although I'm not really the best artist, so, you know, just I hope it gets the idea across and that's about it. Square City. It's a stage like the one you see in the intro. Well, you usually only see a very small part of Station Square, as well as the highway that for some reason's above it. I think having a town below it could help the game show how Station Square is a city. A sewer segment could also be pretty cool, and you even see that again in the intro when Chaos goes ham. Another idea would be to have some characters to enter the buildings and run around the rooftops, as well as having humans reacting to the situations the characters are in. Like, let's say, humans running for Gamma, or children rush to see Sonic as he passes by the streets, of course being stopped by a wall or something, because we don't want Sonic running to some child a la the boys. Yeah, we don't want that.
I can't stop.
Boost! Egg Tower! I imagine it would be a pillar stall stage, kinda like TikTok Clock was in Mario 64, or that one part in Final Egg that I'm pretty sure was supposed to be the tower I'm thinking of. Anyways, having an elevator and visit multiple floors would be cool. You could also make the stages work going upwards and downwards, meaning some characters would climb it and others would fall through it. It could even show the intention in the story, whether it is attacking or escaping. Or maybe, not giving a shit, like Big. Neon Underground. A stage made to play lighting technology with lots of colors and neon lights. You imagine something like a combo between City Escape and that Sonic Pyramid stage with the dope music in Sonic Adventure 2. One mechanic could involve breaking machines to stop enemy spawning. I'd also imagine the place would be kinda earthy, cause underground, so it would be kinda like a neon cave. I don't know, it could be a really interesting situation to see in a Sonic game. Mystic Forest, a simple forest stage with giant runes and other mysterious items like pillars. Imagine an outside version of Lost World. It could revolve using some sort of ancient Shinda technology to traverse through a maze, or maybe it could be this very big open space where you get to explore a lot, but you also get to find not many things, it's more about marinator. I don't know, it could be a very boring stage if that was the case, but I'm still gonna throw that idea out, because I like throwing ideas, because that's what I do with my ideas. I throw them at people, and then maybe sometimes every now and then they kill a man, but that's okay. You don't go to jail for killing a man with your ideas. I hope. Chaos World. This would be a stage for all the characters due to it being in the final story. A challenge where you use all of the characters' playstyles where all of them get to collect one Chaos Emerald. Gamma, Metal Sonic and Tikal would not have a level here. Well, because Gamma dies, Metal Sonic is just hard mode and Tikal has to play like Knuckles, so she would be useless. Sonic would probably have a short section, because, well, you already play as him a lot of the story, so... One of the mechanics would involve getting civilians to safe places so that we know that they didn't die like they show in the intro, which and you know, they may have died, and yes, me very big brain for adding this mechanic and explaining stuff, yeah. Now that we're at it, I think it's a great place to say that we'll give Sky Chase an overhaul, making it less of a scroller and more of a the more you kill the more boost you get situation, and also add charge shots and make it work like a standard shooting game rather than locking on. Then we could even add a third Sky Chase where you fight the deleted Dragon Boss, but instead of playing it with Sonic and Tails, you'd play it as other characters, and I'll explain why in a little bit, because, yeah, cool. Those are the stages, so let's split the stages into this table. Whoa, that's one ugly and messy table. Can we fix this? There we go, much nicer. So as you can see, you've got no context. Let me explain. The green means stages that have at least unique sections to the character, the blue means stages mostly were used from other stories, yellow means optional, and red means hard mode. Tikal is now the shortest story, but Amy is still the second shortest and Sonic still the longest. Egg Tower would be the same stage for all the characters given my context. Again, those stages are my ideas on how I would make it, and I think of them just for fun, and if you don't like those ideas, well, you can just scrap them and continue watching the video because it's really cool and there's still like half of it left. Metal Sonic has optional stages and most notably the minigames cause, you know, they are kinda boring. The final story is missing because the chart would be weirder with it. Looks good? I'll explain how they fit into the story in the next section. But before that, bosses. I did not forget about them. Anyways, here have another chart showing the bosses from original Sonic Adventure. It's nice to see that there's only 12 bosses, but over half of them are only fought by one person. Either way, I will now propose a few new bosses. Torment Chaos, a version of Chaos fought by Eggman. The idea is to make a dragon-looking boss, kinda like a small version of Perfect Chaos. The idea is to show Eggman beat him with his machines to show why Chaos is following Eggman's command before betrayal. Zero B2, a harder version of Zero for Amy to fight, and she'll fight the normal version of Zero in the middle of the story and probably fail, cause otherwise it kinda breaks the idea of her story. Chaos 1, a version of Chaos Zero but with stronger attacks, and turning into a ball like Chaos 2, all while in a different arena. Egg Dragon or Dragoon. It's the Sky Chase 3 boss. You could also be called Egg Wyvern if you want to reference 06 for some reason. E105 Zeta, which is just Zeta normally looking instead of how he looks in the whole shelter fight. And Pachacamac, which is the leader of the Echidna clan. And he'd probably use his staff and stuff to make magic with fire, and maybe he will be acrobatic? I imagine a one-on-one battle, kinda like the battle you have with Knuckles and Gamma, but more Sonic Adventure 2-like. E47, a boss found in Neon Underground. Some form of robot meant to protect the entrance to a special zone in the level as well as exploit the underground contents of the city. He's inspired by the E47 scene in Sonic X, but he be a slicker version designed for Sonic Adventure 1. It's categoristic for not having a flicky, so that way Gamma doesn't have to kill him. Okay, time to categorize the bosses too! Fuck these charts, they take like 3 hours to do. Either way, I think this chart explains itself except for Tikal. She should be hard-coded to lose the battle against Pachacamac regardless. If you were patient enough and didn't pause the video, now is a good time to look at it. I'll give you some time. How they fit in the story? Okay, time to answer that. That is the next section, which I was talking earlier, but this one lasted like a minute 30, you know, before the last one, and I'm just making it longer, so I should just go on with it. Why am I not going on with it? What the fuck's happening? Why am I not going?
Tell your story. Ra-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta.
Before we begin, I should say it might be a good idea to leave all the cutscenes the same in all stories, if it will be too problematic, of course. Usually you're playing as the character who is more proactive in the cutscene, because they make different versions of the same cutscene depending on who you're playing as. You would lose part of the charm, but it may also be worth it, given that it allows new stuff to be added. So, now I'll start talking about the story for each character, and in order of unlockable, and only the important parts, like the order of the stages and bosses for them. This is again so I don't take 17 years on a single video. Sonic's story progression will remain almost the same actually. The only difference would be having Square City before Twinkle Park, then remaining the same until after Skydeck, where he would encounter Cream upon fighting Gamma. Then the Channel 6 fight, Lost World, and then the new stages bosses I gave him. In order: Mystic Forest, Pachacamac, Egg Tower, Neon Underground, E47. Then he'd get the final egg and end the story the same way he usually does by fighting Eggman in that weird Viper machine. Tails will remain mostly the same too. Well, he goes to Mystic Forest before Sky Chase too, because that's when he has his flashbacks and also to pace out the 3 Sky Chases. Tails will probably scout the Egg Carrier before Skydeck to fix the goddamn wheels because he's kind of an idiot. Then he takes Cream in his Tornado instead of taking Amy because Amy goes with Gamma. After that, he ends his story in the same way he usually does. Knuckles has some changes. He would first have a Chao Zero fight at the beginning of his playthrough. I never get why it wasn't a thing in the original game, but either way, after winning, Chaos would pop out of the puddle and break the emerald. Then Speed Highway will continue, followed by Square City, Casinopolis, and Mystic Forest as he has his first flashback after finishing Casinopolis. Then he'd fight Childs 2, after which he gets the choice to go to either Twinkle Park or Red Mountain. He'll still do both stages, again it's open world so he gets to do one either or. After that, you get the Chaos 4 battle, and another choice would be given to take on Skydeck or Lost World, given that both areas are accessible and followed by a flashback. The only difference would be that the flashback he gets is different, and his second flashback would lead to the Pachacamac boss fight, the Egg Tower, and Chaos 6 but in a different arena. And that's mostly because Knuckles is the last one to fight the boss chronologically in the original, and I wanna keep that same. His story ends the same way as it usually does. Amy's story would start a little earlier than usual, but Amy going off to Emerald Coast, where instead of being chased, you first have the mission to find Sonic. That's because her controls can be a little bit weird, so, let's give the players a familiar stage to learn them. Anyways, Amy finds Bird, then she goes to Square City where she is chased this time around. Finds Sonic, Twinkle Park, loses Sonic, so instead you see her battle Zero as it is in the original game, but in a different arena. After that, Sonic comes, distracts her, she's like, oh wow, that's cool, and then she's taken by Zero. Then her story progresses as it does normally. On the Egg Carrier, Gamma defends her against Zero because he also has a Zero fight and also it helps, their bond instead of just being one cutscene. Anyways, after Sonic kills the Egg Carrier, she lives with him instead of Tails since Robot goes to Mystic Ruins. And then she can get the final egg easier, where Eggman has Birdie's family. She does final egg where Zero B2 captures Birdie, you follow him to the Egg Carrier where you fight B2, who, again, is a harder version of regular Zero with more attacks like a missile launcher. Either way, you beat it and the story ends as it does normally, on the Egg Carrier. Big would have the same story, but there will be a Chaos 1 fight given his new Hurdy abilities. That would explain why Froggy goes to Square City, then Ice Cap. Next, the story would work the same, up to Chaos 6. But you do get to go all the way to Big's house because E47 gets Froggy and you have to go down into Neon Underground to fight him at the end of his playthrough where you finally get Froggy. For Gamma, I won't be included the E100 series in the chronology. This is because they are what they always are at the end of the stages. So anyways, the story starts the same, however, when he gets his Tikal flashback, he also starts feeling emotions. He goes into Mystical Forest and fights Pachacamac. This way we give him more reasons to betray Eggman other than, oh wow, I talked a little bit with Amy. Anyways, after letting Amy out, he fights Zero with his lasers, then proceeds to betray Eggman. Now when Gamma thinks that he needs to find the others, but instead of just somehow knowing where they are, he decides to storm Neon Underground and battle E47. However, the place should have no neon lights, so he'd get his own little version of the stage. This is because Eggman would still be building it chronologically. You'll see why I mean when I get there. Anyways, he finds the location of Zeta, Delta, Epsilon, and Beta, and he kills them in their respective order. Zeta would work the same way Delta and Epsilon do, but on his stage, Square City. After which the game continues like it does always. Maybe ending a scene for Zeta, Still Alive, or something somewhere in the middle, so he also evolved into Mark II. Okay, now it's time to explain the stories for the new characters. I could explain everything about them, but that'd just be writing fanfiction. And while doing it sounds like it would embarrass me forever and I will have shame and, I probably would never be happy ever again with this video because, oh my god, it just turned into shameless and cringy Sonic fanfiction. Cream's story would probably start about the same time Sonic does, maybe earlier. I'd like to have plot to revolve around Cheese being a Chao and trying to steer Cream into stopping Chaos. Maybe we could make Cheese a descendant of one of those Chao that died at that Swansea. Oh my god, I just remembered it again. Why do I keep doing this to me? So yeah, you would probably start in Windy Valley, given it's by far one of the most naturally vertical stages, followed by a version of Speed Highway that incorporates light platforming with heavy amounts of enemies to show that gameplay aspect. Next, you get the Chaos 1 boss, because having this in a later would probably be kinda stupid. Next would be Lost World along with that Tikal flashback involving cheese. So that means Mystical Forest is next. Then Casinopolis comes on. I think the hub before this stage should have Sonic and Tails about to go to Ice Cap. Next, she'll go to the Egg Carrier, she'll probably hitch a ride with Zero and Amy. Then she'll have her Sky Deck stage, since it's her only reason for going into the Egg Carrier. But now she must flee the Egg Carrier with Tails for Sky Cheese 3 and the Egg Dragon boss. When she lands, she has decided to follow Eggman as he's got his whole deal with Chaos, but Tails asks Cream to not get in the way as he wants to defeat Eggman alone. And to kill time, she goes to Twinkle Park, where she literally decides to casually go into a super steep roller coaster. Anyways, she gets back on track to storming Eggman's base, which leads to Egg Tower, Neon Underground, and E47. Then she'll see Chaos 6 has been defeated by Knuckles and goes back to being dormant. However, a blue ball of chaos remains on her feet. Then she goes into Final Egg. After the stage, finds a defeated Eggman and demands info, but Eggman explains Chaos has lost and that the emeralds are now in Knuckles' heads. As she leaves, Chaos sticks himself onto Eggman and her story ends with her making sure that Knuckles has the emeralds. She goes up to him, and then maybe they have ice cream together or something to show that Knuckles isn't a dick or something like that. I don't know, I'm just writing fan fiction, fuck me. Anyways, all of the characters have a boss fight at the end of the story, but I think Cream being the exception would be rather cool. I would keep the theme and make her battle the Egg Viper too, but for the sake of my imagination running wild and writing stupid ass fanfiction out of nowhere, I wouldn't do that. Eggman's story would have a lot of looking at him prop up stuff and, get everything ready for his master plans. His story would begin before Sonic's, where Eggman would go to Lost World and find and fight a dormant Chaos. He would win, and therefore we will explain why Chaos is following Eggman. Then he'd go to Square City at night, where he would prop Chaos into the city for the start of Sonic's story. Then after that, he'd go to Final Egg, where he would introduce the fix and hacking deal. He would drop the dolls and finish creating the E100 models, as well as commanding them to find Froggy. Next, you'd have Windy Valley and a cutscene to replace the Egg Hornet encounter. After that, he'd go through Hot Shelter so he can lift the Egg Carrier, then go back to Station Square, get busy with Green Punch and Chaos 1, then proceed to steal Sonic's Emerald in Casinopolis so he can taunt Knuckles before Chaos 2. Here's where the right thing to do would be to put a funny cutscene where we just imply that Eggman sat around and waited for Sonic and Knuckles to fight, but instead, we have him go to Skydeck to arm the Egg Carrier, foreseeing Tails and his tornado. He'd also make Zero around this time and begin modifying Beta. Anyway, Shabba Dabba the Chase 4 fight, behold my floating masterpiece, the Egg Carrier. After that, he'd throw Sonic out of the sky cause the tornado chase, and then he'd go do some stuff in the Egg Tower. He would receive Froggy and make an evil speech saying all of his plans are in motion. Fight with Sonic on a non-boss battle, get the Emerald in the bird, then Big and Sonic win against Chaos X. Those beginning Eggman's gradual failure. Either way, Chaos gets angry, now Eggman has to fight both Chaos and Sonic at the same time, so he'd rather flee. Eggman's like, wait a minute, I need to plant a bomb, that was my backup plan, so he goes do that, but Tails like, nah bitch. Next, he'd finish Neon Underground preparations as he freaks out and plants out the Egg Viper, then Beta's like, Father, please stay a look at my new powers. Eggman agrees as soon as Beta goes fight Sonic after whatever reason he wanted an upgrade. That's a boss fight, Sonic erupts into Neon Underground, Eggman flees again to Final Egg, but that he gets his ass kicked by Sonic. His story ends with him crying as all of his plans came tumbling down. Zero is dead, the E100 robots are dead, Chaos, he's also dead, and a little girl goes and gives him pity, so he has completely failed, pretty much. Tikal would probably have several cutscenes before any stage, showing how she cares for the Chow. Her stages would probably involve discovering the secrets of the emeralds in Lost World, running off into the Mystic Forest because she's frustrated with her father, and ultimately getting wood by him in a cutscene we don't talk about. Seriously, we don't talk about it. Next we do the cutscenes of how Chaos destroyed all the village and how she turned into a big ball during the game. In between you get to see snippets of the flashbacks the other characters have, so you get them ordered before you unlock the final story, and that way it makes more sense. And I guess we could also explain a little bit of why the characters are getting these flashbacks. Because, there's no reason to give big flashbacks. But that's just a separate idea entirely. And finally, there's the final story, which would just be the same as always. You would get Chaos World, and the idea of that is to have a stage for all the characters to grow through, just like Sonic Adventure 2 did it. This would probably involve all of the characters getting the emeralds and rescuing civilians. Maybe we could even remove the whole thing with Eggman and the egg carrier too, because it makes no sense. And of course the original reason why that was done was because they wanted to show that Perfect Chaos is very strong and can beat the egg carrier very easily, you know, they wanted to show the power levels, and instead of doing that we can just put Perfect Chaos in the background of all of the stages, and that way people know he's a threat. I haven't said this, but Chaos looking like he does in Generations would be ideal, but that's just me saying. Either way, Tails, Knuckles, Amy with Gamma, Big, Cream, and Eggman will all gather one Chaos Emerald, bring it to Sonic, then Sonic will get a small section getting close to Chaos, and it would end with Perfect Chaos fight, and the same way it works in the original game. Maybe what I do is that I put the super high segment after the segment with the depressing music, because I never got why they did those. I don't know. They could also unite the scenes and swap the music, so it's not as annoying and you just get this very long so far. That's whatever. So anyways, the point is to make it end on a high note. Perfect Chaos would also have that one beta attack they removed from the game, by the way, which, I mean, that's pretty cool. I just, wanted to bring some of that back because it was planned for the original, and it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. Is it pretty cool? It's not pretty cool. What am I talking to? What am I doing? This concludes the story segment of the video. That's the fanfiction. Jeez, how will the YouTubers sit around and do these types of videos the last 1 hour? I mean, it's fun, but it's tiring too. But anyways, that's the main part of the game explained, so now we can go into the ideas for finishing the game. And by that I mean post-game stuff and all of the other things that shouldn't take 2 hours again. Post-game, so you would unlock new Chow eggs, a better black market, free play mode, and all of those extra missions that you find in the eggs, mission mode as well as all of those secondary objectives. You'd also unlock Metal Sonic to play hard mode, which still gives you badges, so if you want to complete the game, you'd need to do him. I toned down some of the missions though, 3 missions per stage and nothing too hard. Metal Sonic would not have a mission mode, that'd be stupid. The Chow Garden now lets players carve more treats to their Chow, but they don't award emblems anymore when they complete races, since nobody likes grinding forever in a game before completing. And talking about completing, let's discuss completion bonuses. So for completing the game you get skins, as well as getting to play as Super Sonic in all of Sonic stages, including Metal Sonic stages. I'd also let people remove death planes, get hacks like Moon Jump and No Clip, just the fun stuff, things you do with a game once you finish it and you're like, I just want to explore some stuff. Maybe having a concept art gallery would be cool, but I think the real pick of it would be to let people have an overpowered child treat as a reward for beating the game, and it would give a lot of replayability and it would avoid people ignoring the garden after completing Cream's story, especially if they found the Chow Garden annoying or pleasant. As for stages, porting the original Dreamcast version of Emerald Coast with a Dreamcast Sonic skin would be peak nostalgia too. Graphics and presentation are a very important part. It's obvious that a general enhancement will happen, but I think trying to add heavier lighting to some sections could benefit the environments. Characters should try and find a balance in their look between the Dreamcast models and the more modern Forces and Generations models. Fixing animation issues with the original, like characters walking in place, is also a given, but the animations back then were kinda lackluster compared to what we have now. For example, Sonic's mouth is about the most expressive thing in DX, and well, it doesn't look so good anymore. But, for example, Amy and Tails now have very characteristic movement in cutscenes, while here they just kinda blink and rotate their heads, which is not very expressive, and I think we should stick more to the animations they have in modern games. The alternate will be to give them back the visual personality from Adventure and just improve them into acting more. There's lots of other options though. Oh, and letting the English lines have a space to breathe would be nice. So, yeah, talking about English lines, let's talk about voice acting. I think I like as much of the original cast as possible to return, except for Tails, cause, well, let me be honest, the current version of him is way better, and well, Tig's voice from back then was done by a child, and I don't think we can get that voice back. But for the other characters, I'd say the return would be welcome and preferable. Not because the current actors do a bad job though, but because of nostalgia. It's given that some voices can come back though, and of course, if anyone in the original cast decides to return for good. Here's a list of what not to do with the graphics. Minecraft trees, cartoony ass textures, things looking flat as fuck syndrome, not using the Unleashed game as the visual style base. Then there's humans, which should come back looking as anime as in the original, but a movement that would make holes in the story too. Here's the deal, realistic people just don't work unless you manage to somehow pull a Mario Odyssey, which is pretty hard. Cartoon-ass people look too fucking stylized for people to empathize and recognize the humans. So simply going for the way they look in the intro, or maybe the way they look in Sonic X would be a lot better. And finally, if you wanted to give Sonic a new art direction for characters, I think just a tad bit of simulated hair, at least in the shading, would be a nice touch for the visual style. And, well, while I know some people don't agree with it, maybe they could make it an option that you can turn off. Soundtrack! So why is there a soundtrack segment? Well, because people would like to change the music, I guess? Really, Sonic Adventure has music that doesn't revolve around the sound chip. The only thing about the music I could suggest changing is maybe, and as a stretch, changing the lyrics to rhyme in character themes, as soon as they don't touch up in your heart because it's way too iconic. So yeah, just use the music from the original or do a simple remaster for a couple of them, the ones that sound bad or you know you need to relicense. Anyways, the music's already so good. What they could do is add new tracks, like using a style similar to what Sonic Adventure 2 did with Knuckles stages. Or for example, new boss tracks so you listen to more than 2 boss music. And Fight My Own Way is good and you don't listen to it because character battle lasts 3 seconds. But yeah, just add it, don't change it. You know what else not to change?
Oh no, oh no, oh no,
Yes.
oh no, oh no, oh no.
I'm being serious right now.
Oh no.
So, time to look at all of the extra stuff, and by extra stuff I just mean the Chow Garden and minigames. So, now let's start with the Chaos Garden. So, here we have 3 options. We could port the original version of the Chow Garden with all of the mechanics and whatnot. We could use the mechanics from Sonic Adventure 2, but the gardens from 1. Or, we could add a new things to the system to make a more unique version of the Chow Garden with a little bit more depth to it. Again, we could rework the entire concept and it wouldn't be as much of a problem if it's still about taking care of Chow. Anyways, what about the Chow Garden minigames? I mean, fighting and racing are really simple games that just take your stats and adapt them to simple sport. So maybe we could do something like Sword Player Bowling! I don't know, the point is, a third Chow game would be pretty good. Here's another idea from the top of my head, for example. We could make a photo shoot Chow plays, where you can choose the Chow, their poses, and what background to use. Maybe you can even give them little accessories to wear. I don't know, it's just an extra idea that could make the Chow Garden a little less simple. And what about minigames? In the X, there are several stages made for Twinkle Park Racing that just remain in use, sitting in the game files. I think that would be a pretty good addition for a remake. In fact, let me explore the unused content to see what else we can bring back. There's, for example, a concept for Gamma failing Final Egg, or several Gamma angles that just don't work. I think everybody has seen this unused version of Windy Valley, and if you haven't, you should probably look it up. I mean, this version is overall bigger in size and has different level design for the original game, but I think I kinda like it. I've given it like 1 play, and I think it's pretty cool. Maybe it can be brought back as an Act 4 for Windy Valley, or, you know, it applies to some other characters. There are many ideas here, and that's the cool part. We can do more things. So as you can see, I've taken a few things from the beta already, like the Dragon, Eggman, and Tikal, so I don't see why taking more stuff would be a problem. So, anything else I can think of? Not really, I mean, sure, even more stuff could be added. I could go on and on about the little things and whatnot, but I think it's overall not really necessary. We could just end it here. I mean, remakes now try to have amazing graphics so they can be a big as difference from the original. But Sonic Adventure is by far one of the Sonic games with the most potential, not only because it could help Sonic get back on track after the failure that was last decade, plus a lot of awesome content could be brought back to life in a remake, but I don't know, what do you think? What would you like to see in a Sonic remake? Sonic Adventure 1 of course. Do tell me in the comments as I let off the video with an outro. Thank you all so much for watching. This probably took 900 hours to edit, but that's future me's problem. No, I'm not him yet. I mean, I'm sitting in my room recording this, not him. So yeah, leave a like, a comment, share. You've already sat through all of this, and I'd really appreciate if you did all that. Plus, you got nothing to lose. And really, seriously, thanks for watching if you made it this far, because it's amazing that you sat through with me through all of this. I'm sure I'm gonna work on making this video great. So, if you could help me out by sharing it, again, please do it, because it'd be really cool to know I did not just waste my time. So, yeah, that's it. Goodbye. Wait. Forgot to say not to meme the marketing. What? It's fading out? Don't fade out. No. Come back. Don't leave. Don't mix with the marketing. I repeat, do not mix with